Thank you so much, choir, for leaving us on that very high note. We will wait with anticipation till the fall. And like I said, I'm sure hoping we see a variety of you in a variety of ways all summer. I'm looking forward to that. But thank you for a tremendous year. All the things that you bring to this worship are dearly appreciated. You can take us to a little more sacred place just by the music you bring, and we appreciate that dearly. I don't know how many of you remember that old story about the two mice that get cornered by the big fat alley cat. Here's this big fat alley cat, has these mice cornered. He's got his hair up on his back, his ears are pointing back. He's ready to take a lunge. He's going to have a nice old lunch of two little mice there in the alley. Well, one of the mice starts just shaking, just knees and knocking. He doesn't know what to do. But the second mouse gets a little light bulb over his head. He has an idea. The second mouse looks at the cat square in the eyes and he starts to bark. Well, the cat is confused by this, as you can imagine. Right away, the hair on his back goes down. His ears perk up. What is this? The second mouse continues. Well, the cat is so confused by this, so upset, he's never seen such a thing. The cat literally turns tail and runs away. Well, the first mouse, whose knees are still shaking, turns to the second one and said, "What was with all that barking?" The second mouse says to the first, "Sometimes it pays to learn a second language." Take a look at what Jesus has done in this world. Jesus has done the radical, revolutionary thing of learning to speak a new language. And I'm not talking about Aramaic. I'm not talking about Greek. Jesus has learned to speak the people's language. You remember, at the time, Jesus was called rabbi. He could have been like many of the rabbis in his day, using religious speak. He could have contained himself to the language of doctrine, of law, of Torah. But Jesus did the radical, revolutionary, loving thing, and he learned to speak the people's language. He knew that people, if they were going to know God, needed to be heard in their language, and he needed to share it with them in their language. You know, I was thinking that's kind of what we've been about here at Old Stone Church for 190 years. I think that's what we've been doing in the recent history as well. We've been learning to speak the new language of new people who are coming to the Old Stone Church to hear the Word of God, to feed on its richness, and to be strengthened in their faith. Whether it's the Open Doors group that's learning how to speak the language of the diverse group who come in Monday through Friday to sit in our pews and pray or to worship, or whether it's our mission committee learning to speak the language of the hungry and learning to respond faithfully through homeless stand-downs and other mission projects. I was thinking that in the very recent history, we have had a lot of new ones born. I say this because that's about the size of a new one to me. All these new babies being born and all these little ones and toddlers coming to the Old Stone Church, and how we're learning to speak the language of mums and dads in the 21st century. I'll show you what I mean. When I was a kid, in worship, I was to be absolutely silent. If I could not be silent, I would be removed. That's the way it was when I was a kid growing up in the 60s. You fussed, you were out of there. And as I got a little older, you went to Sunday school. Children were not allowed to really participate in worship. Sometimes we were allowed to stay in there, and that was for just special occasions. And on those occasions, that's when you learned to play X and O's on the bulletin with your brothers. Heaven forbid you made a sound. Otherwise, you were out of there. But in the 21st century, we recognize that children are very much a part of the life of our faith family. They're important to us. We hear a little gurgle or a little fussing in worship, and we learn to welcome and celebrate those children in our midst as part of the family. And I don't know about you, but the older I get, hearing children around me makes me feel younger, makes me feel hopeful again. And as I often say to young mums and young dads who bring their children into the Old Stone Church, don't worry if your kids get too fussy. You see, the only fussy child that has ever worried me or bothered me in worship is my own children. But we're learning to speak the language of welcome to these young families. And part of the way we do it is we put a big screen TV in that back room that sometimes we call the bride's room. Now we call it the quiet room. Because we know if the kids are getting too fussy, Mom and Dad are going to get stressed. We need to provide welcome for them, so we put a big screen in that room so they don't have to feel cut off from the rest of us. We're learning to walk in the footsteps of Jesus by learning to speak a new language. We're learning to talk to folks and hear folks where they're at in this day and age. My goodness, I finally broke down and signed up for Facebook this past week. We're learning to speak the language of the day. Now, I've been on MySpace for years, but that was just to promote my music. I've been on LinkedIn because that's the way professional people connect, but everybody gets mad at me. They keep sending me these emails. Mark, when are you going to sign up for Facebook so we can talk? I'm thinking, well, we're talking right now, aren't we? I prefer a face-to-face conversation, but there are many in our day and age who communicate through Facebook on a daily basis. I signed up, I could not believe, within like 15 or 20 minutes, I had all these people wanting to be my friend. So-and-so would like you to be their friend, and so-and-so's related to so-and-so, and they want to be your friend. Within 20 minutes, I had a little thing in the corner of my screen popping up saying, your friend John is online and wants to talk. I'm thinking, John hasn't called me in 3 weeks, and now within 15 minutes of Facebook, John is ready to have a conversation with me. My goodness, we are learning to walk in the footsteps of Jesus and learning to speak the language of the people. We're not going to be confined simply to the language of our doctrine or the language of our religion. If we want to talk to people about God and the power of God through Jesus Christ, we need to learn a second language. But look, the wonderful thing about Jesus is Jesus didn't just stay at home and speak his second language. Jesus took his second language out to the world. If you're going to learn to speak the language of the people, then why not go where the people are? You know, it would have been easy for Jesus to hang around the synagogue and the temple exclusively and say, well, I've learned this new language, and when people are ready to talk about faith, I'm here. And if they want to come, they can come. Door's always open. They're welcome. Nobody showed up yet. Jesus went out to the people. Jesus went out into the world to do his ministry. In fact, the majority of Jesus' ministry did not take place within organized religion. It took place out there in the world. In fact, the only 2 times that I can recall Jesus being in the temple or in the synagogue, he's getting in trouble. He's getting in trouble. Maybe that new language, they didn't speak it very well, and they were uncomfortable with that. First time that we're told that Jesus went into a synagogue, he went in and he cast out demons. In fact, that's very early on in his ministry. Some people debate whether the wedding at Cana is the first miracle or the casting out of demons within organized religion. I'm thinking that ought to tell us something. Jesus shows up, and where does he start? In organized religion, casting out demons. They didn't receive him so well.